Okay, Oscar Nuts, we are days away from getting the results of BAFTA and PGA, but we've had a lot of tea leaves so far with Golden Globes and other guilds. So where do we stand now in terms of real Oscar frontrunners? I don't know. I just pretend to know. I'm Tom O'Neill, the editor of Gold Derby, but I have these guys on staff to help set us all straight. We have Marcus Dixon, Daniel Montgomery, and Chris Rosen. Daniel, we're going to start with you because you had the guts to write an article this morning that I thought was excellent in terms of summing up the confusing early indicators that we have.
As we're recording this, we're a day out from the SAG Awards, which went to Trial of the Chicago 7 in the top category. And the SAG Awards sometimes predicts the Oscar, though only about half the time do they actually match. But a couple of those times, it was Shakespeare in Love, it was Crash, it was Spotlight, the films that were the underdogs in the Oscar race. That was our early indication. I think that could happen here, but also not. That's the weird thing. Nomadland has won everything. It's it won the Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, Producers Guild. It's the front runner for the Directors Guild, which are coming up. It's a very uncharacteristic choice for the Oscars. It's a very small scale independent movie, but then again, so was Moonlight. It won Best Picture. I think it's still up in the air, and I think Minari is also looking like Moonlight, because Moonlight lost everything along the way, and then it won the Oscar for Best Picture, and it had that sentimental rooting factor that Minari still has. So I honestly still think it's a three-way race, but right now, just because most things seem to be pointing that way, I'm sticking with Nomadland for now.
Okay, Marcus, you're next. What say you? What's really ahead to win Best Picture at the Oscars?
Well, there's a lot of Oscar categories I'm losing sleep over, and Best Picture is not one of them. I am not even considering that something else, can be Nomadland. God love you, Daniel, for laying out the cases. But this has won the Producers Guild, the Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, and dozens of critics' prizes earlier in the season. And yes, it didn't win any SAG awards, but it doesn't need to. I mean, this is not an actorly movie. I mean, it's full of people who had never even acted before. Frances McDormand will probably win BAFTA, but that's really because of a lack of competition. Many of her Oscar nominees or co-nominees aren't even recognized at BAFTA. So I'm sticking with Nomadland. At this point, nothing can change my mind to switch. So I'm either going down with the ship or I'm going to get it right.
All right, now Chris Rosen and I are going to talk you out of that. I don't know if I can. You can collapse it like a house of cards in less than 7 minutes. Go for it, Chris.
Well, I would say my problem is I think if it was any other year, I would be saying Nomadland is vulnerable because I just don't feel like there's a lot of enthusiasm for it, right? Like we've seen, last year, Parasite, there was a lot of enthusiasm for. I guess maybe the comp is Spotlight. Was there a lot of enthusiasm for that? I don't know, but the problem is I don't have another movie here that I think has enough enthusiasm to beat Nomadland. So I think Minari would have been my choice, and I had switched from Chicago 7 to Minari for SAG because I was like, oh, if it wins SAG, maybe that was a little hope dicting or whatever. Where I was like, oh, if it wins SAG, then that gives it a shot, I think, against Nomadland, but it didn't. Chicago 7 won, so now I'm like, okay, well, I don't think there's a lot of enthusiasm anymore for Chicago 7. It feels like that kind of ebbed and a little bit as the season has worn on. So I'm sticking with Nomadland too, though I would love to be wrong and have it be a big upset or something, but I just don't think it's going to lose. I think, the reason I think it feels like the movie that everybody has kind of agreed is the best picture, right? It just is. That's it. And like Marcus said, there's other races that I think people are more enthusiastic about, trying to figure out or pulling an upset on, or a little more unexpected. I think people have moved on from just like Nomadland won, and we'll find other stuff to worry about. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could convince me of Promising Young Woman, Tom, because I'm looking to pick something else, but I just can't. I can't do it.
That's my what does Joyce call them? Your fan diction.
Yeah.
When you're because it's my favorite movie of the year. But I also am kind of talking myself into it in other ways that I want you to help me out with here. But look, something very weird has been happening with the Oscars in recent years as the voting changes constantly and the membership expands rapidly. And that is all of these movies that we've just talked about this year is different because Nomadland just won everything. There's just this presumption that the more quiet movie, the obvious front runner is going to win. But you know what? That sounds an awful lot like Roma, which got beat by Green Book, or La La Land, which got beat by Moonlight, or The Revenant, which got beat by Spotlight, or even to some extent like 1917, which of course we know got clobbered by Parasite. These assumptions we can no longer make, like the old days when we could logically say, okay, certain indicators like the biggest movie would win. Literally Ann Thompson and I once did a list together where we took the running time of every nominee for Best Picture going back historically, and then in almost every case, of course, the longest movie won. It was hilarious. And then we know the movie that with the most nominations used to win, but last year, the Parasite had 4 nominations or something. You can't, or was it 4 wins? Yeah.
6 nominations and 4 wins.
Yeah. So a lot of these rules don't apply, and these guilds are not agreeing. And as the Academy is reaching out to a broad audience internationally, that's bringing many other different sensibilities to the Best Picture race, which is great, of course, but it's making our jobs difficult. So in other words, every year, the last 5 years or so, we had this presumed front runner, we had this Revenant, we had this Roma, et cetera, but then we had excitement near the end when an upset came. Here's my case for A Promising Young Woman, and I want you to talk me out of it. Mm-hmm. Because the one thing it does not have is pretension, and it feels like a commercial film. I think it's 2 problems for being, for not winning, let's say. But the argument for winning it, I think, is that I remember for many years I worked at the Hearst Corporation and had to do with coming up with cover lines, etc. And as well as the book division and in the marketing divisions of companies. And in every case, the one of the most important selling elements of anything, a magazine, whatever it was, is defiance. It just, I've had enough, boom. And the defiance is what won Parasite last year. I mean, that finale was just, when they just couldn't take it anymore and the jig was up, they just went for it. And that's what made it so great. And in Spotlight, of course, when they actually end up winning their case, it just gets you this great rooting factor. We don't really have that here. There's a rooting factor at the end of Chicago 7. It's that wonderful speech at the end, beautifully staged, but yet it's so similar to so many trial movies we've had. And I don't know what else could win either. So I think that Promising Young Woman taps that inner rage in people, that just the desire to just say screw you to everyone, but and touches that outrage indicator and definitely has a rooting factor. I mean, it's getting nominations all over the place. It's really, there's something bubbling there. And if I want to really talk myself into this, then use the Chris Beecham rule, and that which is different from all the others in this race wins. And here we have a couple of foreign films, etc., and we have a couple of this and a couple of that. But A Promising Young Woman has just hit. It just opened a couple of days ago, and the numbers are real strong on it, and the word of mouth is really strong. If there were movies that have momentum now and are surging upward, they include Promising Young Woman and Minari, however you pronounce it. So we don't have a front runner, and we don't have a traditional. But one thing about Promising that you could be right is that I think it's one of only 2 movies to get editing, directing, screenplay, acting, and picture. I think Nomadland's the other one. So it got everything it needed. It didn't, get any of those other little tech category nominations, but it did get the most important ones. So if you just look by that, it would be either Promising Young Woman or Nomadland.
Yeah, but what looks good on paper has not looked good at the Oscars in recent years, because last year, the film that hit everything it needed to hit was actually like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, it got all the key categories at the Oscars. It had won the Critics' Choice Award and the Golden Globe. It was doing well. It hadn't won everything, but it was at least nominated for everything. And it ended up falling short. And we see, there's an exception to every rule every year, whether it's Birdman, a rare movie to win Best Picture without the editing nomination, or Argo and Green Book winning without the directing nomination. I'd say screenplay is the one exception where, if you're not in screenplay, you're kind of out at this point, because no film that is missed there that looked like a strong contender has won, like The Revenant. But there's been an exception to every rule. Green Book also wasn't nominated for SAG Ensemble, when that you usually needed a SAG Ensemble nomination. So, I still again, while I'm still predicting Nomadland to win, I do think this is an open race between those 4 films. Although I do think that Promising Young Woman probably is 4th out of those 4, just because it is such. It probably will be a divisive movie that I think will probably rank low on some preferential ballots, and high on others. Whereas, these older members of the Academy who are still there, Trial of the Chicago 7 could be their rousing movie that, we're not thinking of because it's not Film Twitter's movie. Minari could be Moonlight, because Moonlight lost SAG, Moonlight lost PGA, Moonlight lost BAFTA, Moonlight lost DGA, and it won Best Picture, and it had the rooting factor, and it won a supporting award at the rooting factor, and it had Pete Hammond reminds us, the most number 2 votes, etc. So in other words, even if my delusion of A Promising Young Woman happens with the picture, you're right, it's going to be ranked really low on other ballots and high. Nomadland is going to be ranked high on within the top 3 of almost every ballot. I don't know, but how did this shake up the Best Actress race? Boy, I come back for Viola. Go Viola! Wow.
I actually switched to now back to Viola for Best Actress after the SAGs. I'm lost, honestly. I will say I really thought Frances McDormand would win at the SAGs, I guess for no reason other than, we were saying, Nomadland is clearly the choice of this award season in every it showed up everywhere, and I was just is it really going to go the whole night without winning something? And then the only thing it could win is Best Actress for Frances McDormand. I'm not convinced Carey Mulligan was going to win at all. And so anyway, Viola Davis won at SAG, and I was maybe she'll win Best Actress. I guess the reason I kept thinking that now is that if Frances McDormand, let's say, is not going to win because it'll be a 3rd Oscar, and if Nomadland is going to win Best Picture, and then you could argue that that's kind of her winning Best Actress because she's the whole movie, right? So if you love it enough to win Best Picture, why would you also give it her Best Actress? It's just a repeat of the award, basically. Bear with me here as I kind of connect these wild dots. But then I was okay, so she's not going to win. Carey Mulligan maybe is not as strong of a contender as she hasn't really won anything except Critics' Choice. So maybe that ends up not happening. So then you're left with like Viola Davis or Andra Day. And while I think Andra Day could easily win, I just think like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is a better movie. And I think more people are going to be watching it more carefully because of Chadwick Boseman definitely winning. So that leads me to believe that Viola Davis could win. But again, I don't have any idea, and I could change it again. I don't know. I'd love to. What do you guys have at this point for Best Actress?
Well, I still have Carey Mulligan, but she's not in a good position right now. She lost the Globe. She lost the SAG. She's snubbed, very strangely snubbed, at BAFTA. All she has is that Critics' Choice.
So Viola wasn't nominated at BAFTA.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Get out here. Go ahead. As if I'm still fighting for my prediction here.
Sorry, what was your prediction, Viola?
No, I'm hope predicting Carey Mulligan.
Okay. Yeah, because the thing about Promising Young Woman is it's Carey's movie. She is that movie. It's almost like the female Joker. She even has the wig. But the thing is, Joaquin Phoenix won every award show going up to the Oscars, and she's only won the Critics' Choice. So I don't know what I'm going to do in this category. I moved Andra Day up to second place after Chris Beecham gave all of these explanations for why he's predicting her to win. He couldn't join us today, but he said something along the lines of, maybe SAG didn't see the movie in time. Maybe that's why she was snubbed, Andra Day there. And we don't know what happened with BAFTA. There's very, very strange snubs over there. But I forget what else he said. Something along the lines of...
it's the transformative role he was talking about.
Right.
It's like Judy Garland or Freddie Mercury, where you can really tell, comparing to a really well-known figure, how well the performance captures it, which is his argument.
But the one thing, if Chris was here, I would say, that movie only has the one nomination. And what do we always say? The wife, Glenn Close, she lost for The Wife because it was the only nomination for The Wife. But then again, you have someone like Julianne Moore for Still Alice winning on that sole nomination. So I don't know. I do wish that United States versus Billie Holiday had something else, because it's hard for me to predict that. I don't know. So right now I have Carey Mulligan in first, Andra Day in second, Viola Davis in third. But one more thing before I shut up. If Viola Davis was in supporting, I really think she would be running that category at every award show. I think she'd be winning.
I remember looking at the list of Oscar nominees when the final list came out, and just looking at it going, Viola Davis has this wrapped up. It was the first of the nominees that I had seen going back through Oscar season. And I was so impressed, as you have to be, by this performance. And also just by the fact that how talk about defiant when she holds on to her dignity and to her little power that she has, and to hope in a horrible world for her. And it's physically transformative in the sense that she put on padding or weight for the deal, and she is just magnificent in the film. And in the final shot, when she's put into the taxi and she just looks out like, okay, I just stepped away from the one place where I'm going to get respect in the world, where they're going to have to do what I say, and now I'm going back out into this world of racism and poverty and all the rest of these things. There was this kind of regality about the role that maybe just said, "Oh, it's over." I was late seeing Promising Young Woman because I accidentally watched it on demand on cable and hit Spanish, so I ended up watching it in Spanish with English subtitles. I said, "Well, what the hell? I've already paid for it." So then I went back the next day and watched it in English. And I was just really, it's one of those movies, I went over the top, love it, because it's just such a hoot. But it doesn't have the dignity and the class that a Best Picture, the pretension that it needs.
Right.
But it has a rooting factor for those of us who really, really root for it. And as you said, Marcus, it hits all those key indicators.
Is it snobby enough though? It's
not.
I mean, it's such a cool movie, but it's not a snobby movie.
And
I don't know. I feel like, you know, I'm predicting Carey Mulligan right now too, not confidently, because everything's going to be weird and everything's going to be different because we're going to have a different winner at BAFTA. But like, I still go back to like Black Swan. That film had a little bit more artsy pretension to it, but it was also kind of this dark, edgy, kind of a horror movie thing where it's not like the pretentious film. I don't think Joker even was that the pretentious film any more than Promising Young Woman is. And really, this is the category of defiance. Like every single nominee in this category is, you know, Frances McDormand living on her own stubbornly, like refuses to take help from like her sister. Vanessa Kirby refuses to grieve like her mother insists that she grieve. Viola Davis demanding respect. Carey Mulligan demanding respect. Andra Day saying, "Screw you, I'm singing this song." Everyone in this category has sort of that going for them. Where I'm still leaning towards Carey is, I think it's been since As Good as It Gets that a film has won both lead acting Oscars. And Chadwick Boseman is pretty secure for Best Actor at this point, I think. Yeah. And Viola Davis does have a significantly smaller role in that film, so I'm not so confident about her. She also has a thing with SAG. Like, she won for The Help, didn't win the Oscar for that. She has 6 SAG awards now, including 2 for How to Get Away with Murder. She only won 1 Emmy for that. So, you know, that could be a sort of Denzel Washington and Penfield kind of deal with SAG. Neither of them is up at the BAFTAs, so we're going to get Frances McDormand or Vanessa Kirby or one of the other nominees who's not on the radar for any other awards. So, like, we're not going to have a real front runner going into the Oscars, and given how strong Promising Young Woman is as a Best Picture, Director, Screenplay, Editing nominee, which Black Swan also was, and having Ma Rainey underperform there, having Andra Day be the only nominee and a debut performance. Like, there's no urgency to say like Andra Day needs an Oscar right now. Right. And for Andra Day especially, like, United States versus Billie Holiday is a film that should have gotten in somewhere else. It could have gotten in for sound or for costumes or for production design or for the original song that Andra Day wrote that wasn't even shortlisted. So it really feels like she can win, but I'm not sure that 90 members of the Hollywood Foreign Press is enough for me to say, yeah, now I'm moving her up. So, like, sort of by default, I'm still with Carey, just because, not because her pros are so strong, but because everyone has cons. And it's really hard to puzzle it out. It could be like Adrian Brody, because Viola Davis and Frances McDormand are both past winners in a close race, where it's just like, okay, let's give it to the one who hasn't won before.
Everyone keeps saying how they love this year's Best Actress race. I hate it. I like to have one front runner that I can predict and get the point at every category, at every award show, and now I'm losing points.
I will say this is a world-class Best Actress and Best Actor field. I feel like even despite the pandemic, these are, in terms of the quality of the performances in both these categories, it's among the best Best Actress lineup and the best Actor lineups of this 21st century so far. In my experience, it's such a good group in both cases.
Mm-hmm. Impossible to predict. I haven't come back. What I do is what a lot of us do is when we make predictions is that we'll put our what we want to win out there. In some cases, we'll try to do our jobs and make absolute predictions, but we'll allow ourselves in the early cycle of awards predictions, like 4 months out, to sneak a few of those little vanity ones in there, and then slowly we have to get real and we have to make strong predictions here. But Promising Young Woman just really set me on fire a few weeks ago. Whenever it was, I caught up with it several weeks ago, whatever it was. But anyway, that's just me. I'm probably going to switch to Nomadland near the end, simply because of the very convincing argument that Daniel just made about the ranking. Promising Young Woman is going to get a lot of my number 1s and 2s, but it's going to get a lot of 7 and 8s as well. I don't know. Are these supporting categories all wrapped up now?
Well, Danielle Kaluuya has been wrapped up for about a month now, and same with Chadwick and lead. Supporting actress, though, that's another category I hate. I do have Ye Jung-yoon winning, and the SAG definitely, helps her. And that was such a great speech. If speeches still matter, which in the age of virtual ceremonies they may not, she gave the best speech of the SAG night, and I loved having the co-nominees there, like the Glenn Closes and the Olivia Colmans, cheering her on and saying, "No, you're doing great. Your English is perfect." It was such a heartwarming moment. And she's the the guy, I'm blanking on his name, Alan Arkin. She's the Alan Arkin from Little Miss Sunshine. She's the grandma. He was the grandpa. They had health conditions, and it was about the family, and he was kind of quirky, and she's kind of quirky. It's the exact same character, and he won for that. So I'm going with that.
Yeah, I think Ye Jung-yoon is. I've had her out front sort of by default, just because, like Best Actress, it's been kind of all over the place. The fact that she won SAG, I feel, is huge, because she's not it's a huge organization, 160,000 people. They often go with the big names or the legends. This would have been a perfect place for Glenn Close to win. It would have made perfect sense. But the fact that they went with this performance from an actress who's not well known outside of Korea until now. It feels like such a vote of support for her and the film. And just even though we're not seeing all these award shows with lots of crowds where we get to see the crowd reacting to Parasite, and that's how we know it's a strong contender because it has that rooting factor, there was no one at the SAG Awards who was happier to lose than Ye Jung-yoon's fellow nominees for supporting actress. Everyone was so insanely happy for her. And it feels like that's that kind of quality that people want to hug this person so much, and it feels like that is happening. And she's nominated at BAFTA in those weird BAFTA jury categories, so she has a chance to continue building more momentum there. So if she does that, I'm going to feel more confident about her for supporting actress than anyone for Best Actress.
Yeah, I agree. I think what Daniel said, and he just said there, and also in his piece for the site, the fact that everybody was so into her winning, I was like, that's it, she won. It just felt like it's hard to imagine her not winning. The only person who seemed, if not unhappy, but just not as enthusiastic, was Maria Bakalova. I would say, not to knock her, and I love her performance, and maybe she's the number 2. But everybody else, like Glenn Close and Olivia Colman, they were just so thrilled, and all the other actors, I think it was whoever else was there, it was because they mixed the supporting actor and actress nominees at SAG. Everybody seemed really excited for her to win, and yeah, I just feel like the Alan Arkin comp is really, really solid. It just feels like it's the same kind of, it's the type of performance that would win here. So yeah, I think I'm actually now locking her in, and then the only race is Best Actress. That's just out of its mind. But yeah.
Well, whatever happened to poor Amanda Seyfried? Wasn't she supposed to sweep this category? We had her way out front for a million years, like we had Leslie Odom Jr. way out front for a million years, and now all of a sudden we've just switched horses here with great enthusiasm in the home stretch. I agree with both of those predictions. I think they'll both win. But isn't it interesting to see this contest emerge as a race, because Grandma from Minari is really, really taking off. And who was it on our staff that when we interviewed her, she just said, "What is happening to me?" What was her interview with Gold Derby, where she just confessed that she has this stuff. This is freaking me out. This actor in the trenches, or non-actor. I don't know much about her background, but
I think that was Kevin Jacobson interviewing her.
No.
And back to Amanda Seyfried for a second. I remember Jimmy Kimmel told her on his show that she was #1 in the Gold Derby odds, and that was back in October, November. And being snubbed at SAG really hurt her, and not winning anywhere definitely has hurt her. So she has, gone down a little bit as other people continue to rise. Like
she's in last place at Gold Derby now among experts.
Yeah. How
and
the
what
mighty
happens
has
is
gone.
poor Glenn Close finally wins her fucking Oscar, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm unprepared. I never expected I'd win for this. I don't have a speech prepared."
Yeah.
Glenn Close could still win the Oscar. I think there's
Okay.
every possibility that after The Wife lost, this is her 8th nomination. I don't even Oscar voters who vote for her. I'm sure a lot of them probably don't like the movie, but I can just see a lot of people throwing up their hands and just saying, "Just give it to her now." So we don't have to do this again or do this to her again, in another couple of years when she's in, Hillbilly Elegy 2, Electric Boogaloo, and she's trying to do this again. Just give it to her. And, I have a theory that if she had won for The Wife like we all thought she would, this category would be an easier win for Olivia Colman, because I feel like her losing for The Favorite would set her up for a narrative of, "Ooh, we really want to give Olivia Colman an Oscar because she really deserved the Oscar for The Favorite." And so she hasn't really picked up steam, but if she had that narrative in this wide open category, I feel like she would have been winning things this season, especially with The Crown on top of it.
The narrative may not matter. It may just be a case of name recognition, and then just going, "Oh, I don't know what to do here." And having this vague recollection of Glenn Close never winning, so then checking her off. Remember the infamous words of Katharine Hepburn. If I've got I hope I don't screw this story up, but when was it Audrey Hepburn hadn't gotten nominated for the Oscar for My Fair Lady, she got a telegram from Katharine Hepburn saying, "Don't worry about that, dear. Someday you're going to finally win for a role that doesn't rate it." And if I'm right about that story, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but because Audrey Hepburn actually won for her first role, Roman Holiday. But anyway, I've screwed that story up. But the basic point was Oscar's biggest winner, Katharine Hepburn, says, "You win for movies that don't rate it." I would say she's often right, but her greatest performance certainly won an Oscar. That is the line in Winner.
And the thing about Glenn Close is that this movie is not The Wife, because this movie has another nomination, and it's Makeup and Hair. So you could say, maybe she lost because of The Wife. Maybe they didn't watch that movie. Maybe they didn't like it. Well, they clearly didn't love it because it only got the one. But Hillbilly Elegy has 2 nominations.
Woo, okay.
It's the La Vie en Rose and the Iron Lady double play. Is a female acting award and makeup.
Wouldn't that be terrible if that were her career Oscar after all this?
I don't think she would care.
She probably wouldn't care, I know.
And she is the thing that people in Hillbilly Elegy, a movie that even people who don't like it, which is most people, no one is mad at her about that movie. No one holds that movie against her, which I think is the kindest thing you can say about anything in Hillbilly Elegy. So yeah, maybe she'll get a sympathy prize, like Rami Malek having to work with Bryan Singer.
Okay, y'all. I'll reconvene after BAFTA, after PGA, and everybody will have different predictions. But what the heck? That's what this is all about. Those of you watching and listening, go to the Prediction Center at Gold Derby. Make your predictions now. You can change. You can update them. You can stay on top of this race. It's important that we have our most current predictions, all of us there, because that sets the racetrack odds. That sets Hollywood spinning. They are terrified of our racetrack odds, I can tell you, the executives in Hollywood, and that's the reason we do this, because it's so much fun to terrorize them. We will reconvene soon. Thanks.